Here's our AccuShear. This is for shearing plate. Over here on the side, we see some numbers. We got a Series 6. It's a 3/8 capacity, and it's for 10 feet in length here. The capacity is decreased when you're shearing stainless, and it is increased when you're shearing aluminum. So aluminum, you're going to be able to do 7/16. Stainless, you're going to be down to 5/16. So this is based off of steel. So 3/8 capacity for this machine. Having a look at the safety signs and reading them is the first thing you should do on every piece of shop equipment. The biggest thing for here is making sure your fingers are out of the way and not on your material while you're shearing. So keeping your fingers on this side of the guard, the yellow guard, and keeping your fingers off the plate so not to get pinched. Just a quick walk around the machine here, and then we'll be turning it on. A little tag on the side here as well with capacity. Make sure our machine is on here right now. Just a quick look around. Not to be behind here when the machine is on in an operation, just because this back gauge does move when somebody is operating it, so you don't want to be back here. So we got the operation motor over here for the back gauge, and as it says here, no access when the shear is running. The plates that are the crop that's left over from shearing are left on the wall here, and they're marked for thicknesses. This one's got 3/8 here, so different thicknesses here on the wall. So we're turned on, we're energized, and we're ready to use the machine. Let's go ahead. This thing here has got a key lock on it to lock it out. This one here, it's just a press to turn it on, and we'll go through the screen here. So to go through the functions here, we're not going to worry about calibration. If there's a calibration problem, ask the instructor. There is instructions here for using that. Probably the most important thing here is the function for the inch and the millimeters. So hitting function and number 3 for that, and that'll convert it back and forth from inches to millimeters. There is a counter and an hours on here as well. Come back into there. From here, we have our stroke control. So we got maximum and minimum. So maximum, the blade's gonna go down the whole length here. And our blade clearance is very, very important. For the piece of material that you have, you're gonna select the thickness that it is. So if I'm shearing 3/16 plate, we're gonna go to 3/16 plate, and we're gonna wait for the green light to come on before we can go ahead and shear. It takes a little bit for it to work, and then there we go there, green light, ready to go. Okay, so just before we start shearing here, we'll just look at a couple examples over here on the table. Here's one here. And this is what happens if you use the wrong clearance. This one here, the clearance was too large, and it just ended up bending instead of shearing. So this person sheared multiple times here and ended up damaging the blade. So you don't want to be doing that. Also having the piece of material under at least one hold down, because this one here flipped up, and you can actually see this is sheared on quite a bevel here. So it should be a square shear here. So there's a fail for that one. Never shear through a weld. The weld is going to be stronger than the blade, and that'll damage the blade. So that'll chip. Never shear through a flame cut edge. That will also damage the blade. If you have to shear a flame cut edge, you're going to want to grind it, and we need to grind all 3 sides, this side, the face, and the other side, to make sure it's completely clean. And if you got a flame cut edge where it's not a consistent edge like this one, this can also maybe damage the machine here, just because you can't get in and clean these areas. So the only way you can do this is if it's completely flat all the way through. I would not recommend shearing through here. So through clean material only. Okay. So for this one here, we're going to do some shearing. We got some 3/16 plate. I just put a line on here. We'll go ahead and shear this. So there's 3 different ways we can shear. The first one, which might be a little harder to see, is there is a shadow line in there. There's a wire that's running in here, and there's a light on it, and it's casting a shadow line. And it's a fine line, and you can just put that white line right on that shadow line, and then just shearing that way. Also, we can use our squaring arm over here. Again, it's hard to get in there and see and look. Fingers off the machine. It's on the proper blade clearance. We've got enough stroke for it, and we're ready to shear. The foot pedal here, it's just foot. It does have the double safety on the foot pedal. Make sure your hands are off the machine. Okay, we got ourselves a nice sheared edge here. Sheared edge, you're always going to have a rolled edge on the top. You're always going to have a slight burr on the bottom, especially if the blades are a little bit dull. The more dull the blades are, the more burr there's going to be on the bottom. And you can see this one here, I just slightly missed the line, so just getting used to where that shadow line is to where this is. So how close is that shadow line to the edge? The other way we're going to be able to do this is to adjust the back gauge. So the back gauge here, you just have to put the numbers in. I'm just going to put 1.0. I don't even have to hit the decimal zero, and a go to. Hit the go to, it goes to 1 inch. Now the hold and the retract here, the hold, that means the back gauge will not go back as I'm about to shear. If I put the retract on, you'll notice this number here will go up. So the hold downs will come on, and then the back gauge will go back. So I'm going to hit the foot pedal now, not shearing plate. You can see those numbers jump back. And that's so when the back gauge is coming down, it's not pulling the material down when it's shearing. So the biggest problem with that is aluminum. It's very soft, and it could be pulling down and dragging on that. So you might want to put the retract on if you're shearing aluminum, so it's not pulling that down. Otherwise, hold is good. And then with the motor off, basically the back gauge can't move right now. So nothing could be bumped or nothing could be moved, especially if you're going into production. But generally, we don't need to turn that off. We'll just leave it on hold. We'll go to 1 inch. From here, our piece, we're just going to slide it in till it touches the back gauge, and then we're just ready again just to press the foot switch. Okay. Again, that hits the drop chute on the back there, slides down. You'll have to go back and retrieve your material. The other way we can shear this is the front gauge. There is a ruler right here, and the ruler goes all the way to 48 inches. So for this one here, depending on the length that you want, you can just put this in. I see it's about 16.5 right now, so I'll just line it. And this is a very accurate way to get your piece here. So 17 inches. If you knew how long it was, you would know how much is dropping off. And then there's I'll be taking 1/2 inch off. So front gauging here. That's basically our 3 different ways that we're going to shear material. Also, when you're using this machine, if you have short pieces here, trying to get them up under the guard or anything that's close to the push sticks, just so you're keeping your fingers out of the way. If you do have to go close to the guard or even a little bit in, there is the hold downs here, as you can see, just behind this guard, making sure your piece is underneath that guard there. So for this one here, I'll go ahead and I'll shear off, let's just say a half an inch for this one. Back gauge came in, I can push this in, that touched. The hold, my material is under the hold downs, so at least as long as the material is under the hold down, we're good to go on that. So here we go, we'll go ahead and we'll shear this. Very difficult to get this back out of the machine, so a lot of times what we'll do is we'll just increase the back gauge, get the back gauge back, and then we'll just push this through. And they're safe there, your fingers are out of the way as you're using this machine. So these little slots here in the table is just so you can get in and pick up your piece, just because obviously it would be tough to pick up your piece right here. You got these little ball rollers here. They are slightly above the table for when you have your bigger pieces. When you do have bigger pieces, you can move these support arms around as well. The T-slots that are in here is for optional tooling that we don't have. One could be a bevel, so you can put it's a protractor with an arm, so then you can put an angle on your plate. We don't have that. And you can have other front gauging options here as well. Also, when you're putting big plates on, we have a sawhorse here, so supporting your plate as you're bringing it down and trying to get it onto your table. Most of the machine is always used on the left side, so we like to try to use the center or the right side when we can, so we can utilize the whole blade. So we're getting wear out of the whole blade. The blade we can flip 4 times, so as the edge wears out we can flip it. It does take about 4 to 5 hours to flip that, so it's very time consuming. We need to have somebody come in here and do that. So we don't want to damage the blade, and we try not to wear it out by repeatability, especially if doing a lot of smaller, thinner material on the one side, because I can come over here, I can square up to even this is square. I can use this as a square, or I can even come over onto the other side over here and use this as a square as well. And a lot of times, like I said, if we're using the middle of the machine, then a lot of times we're just taking a strip off. If we're just taking a 1/4 inch off the whole way, then trying to utilize the middle machine. You don't always have to use a squaring arm. Here's our material rack over here. We've got some hot rolled steel. Looks like we got some 1/4 inch, and we got some 3/16 here. Hot rolled, you can tell because of the black finish that's on there, and sometimes it has this hot rolled edge. This hot rolled edge, you want to get rid of this, shear this off prior to welding. These sheets are always a little bit wider to allow for the shearing off of this edge. So generally about an extra 1/2 inch, or an extra material thickness is what that is. We also have some aluminum in here, some different thicknesses, 1/4s, 1/8. We got some cold rolled material. You can tell from the shininess of the material, the black finish has been removed off of here from pickling. Also, you can tell the edge is sheared or slitted off as well with cold rolled. It always is. And then we got some hot rolled 10 gauge over here. Hot rolled, again, you can tell from the black finish, or sometimes it has a hot rolled edge here as well. So this is our rack that we, for full materials and half sheets that we use to load to the shear. And then anything that's left over, any crop, thin sheets, we stack here on the wall. And again, we identify these materials and put the thicknesses on there, so it's easy to identify. Over here we have our short ends rack here. Again, we got the steel up top, then we got our aluminum and our stainless at the bottom. So are categorized by our different materials here. So make sure your crop material is marked, identified, put back in the proper place. And that should do it here for our plate shear. As always with any shop equipment, if you're not sure, ask. And that should conclude, or that will conclude, our shear.